Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Green Suiters Podcast. This is episode 135? Question mark?
Yes. Yep. 135.
Well, guess what? We actually, you know what? I don't think we have any new patrons. However, we would like to thank our monthly giveaway sponsor, Tyler over at Forged 3D.
Woo!
Maker of many cool 3D printed items, especially if you're into the festival ecosystem, like the two of us just happen to be. But huge thank you to Tyler.
Three of us.
What's that? Three of us.
You said the two of us.
Did I say two?
Yeah.
I mean, Ronnie doesn't really count as a human.
I'm just another picture on a screen.
Yeah, you just did a pretty face.
Woe is me. Thanks for noticing.
This month and next month, and on the next episode, we'll actually be drawing for the giveaway winner for this month. But next month and this month, Tyler from Forge 3D is giving away two $100 gift certificates to his website, which is forge3d.store, Forg 3D.store. Definitely recommend all of you guys go take a look at that stuff. It is very cool.
And really, really
in all
robust.
three of our shops.
Really, really robust. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I was very impressed with the quality when I saw it. The prototypes.
Let me make sure that we didn't get any new paid members.
So
nope, I said Dylan Scott last week, right?
Yep.
Newest apprentice. Geez, guys, come on. Sign up for Patreon already.
And if you signed up once, go ahead and sign up again.
Yeah.
It's a great gift idea.
If you don't pay for the whole year, pay for the whole year. You get a
It's
discount.
a great
You're
gift
welcome.
idea for your spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, grandparents, brothers, sisters.
And you can come to Green Suiters Con.
Maybe.
Con.
Pretty sure we're full now. I think the last room is booked. That's something we need to discuss. We're so far out now that we're probably here shortly. I'm gonna just have to stop talking about it because I guarantee you we're already around 50 people. So I mean, more people can come. It's just going to change food. You know what I mean?
And if people want to come and arrange their own lodging options, I mean, definitely around that area, there's a ton of hotels within walking distance, and so there's.
And I get, hey Ronnie, you won't believe this. I think it's so cool. You know, our buddy from Denmark, Ali.
Yes.
He sent a screenshot. He booked his hotel.
Oh,
He's
that's
coming.
so cool. That is so neat.
From Denmark.
That is so cool.
So I got to find a gym in the area because him and I are going to go lift.
Yeah, there are plenty. Yeah,
there'll be a gym in the hotel.
I might be able to help you out with that because I know people that live like within walking distance of that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
At some point, though, we talked about this on Beers with the Boys the other night, I think. At some point, we have to cut it off, or else we can't. We can't plan, right?
That's true.
So, as much as I would love every single patron to be there, for this being our first one and kind of figuring it out as we go, and obviously not everybody wants to come. I mean, we had 30 rooms blocked, and I think the last one just got booked today. Maybe there's one left, and you're right, there are other hotels out there, and we can do that. But there is going to come a day, everybody, just so you know. So for those that are listening to this in the future, you know, there is going to get a point where it's not going to be open for any more people to come. Or if you do, you just have to understand that not everything, you wouldn't be included in everything, right? So it's unfortunate, but we have to. We can't let people keep coming without us knowing until the day of.
So our hard stop is going to be once we arrange the food / things based on the amount of people. That's when we have our hard stop, and we'll let everybody know that when that happens. Or are we already there?
I don't know. We need to make the trip out there and talk to a couple of different options. Again, the only night I'm worried about is Friday. That's it. Saturday's an easy. It's a win-win for everybody, right? We're hanging out at the hotel. We have the stuff that we have planned, which we're still not going to divulge just yet. But then we all walk across the bridge, and people, you can go in a group of 10 to go somewhere else. We can have fun at Oktoberfest. There's no real thing there. One thing that I will throw out there, and this is just kind of a precursor for everybody, because we have the numbers that we have, we will probably, once we solidify everything, we will probably send out some information on how we'll take care of the meal in terms of like not preparing it, but getting it all situated to where it's like you literally just have to show up, but there will be a cost involved from each person, right? And that's going to help reserve the room. It's going to help pay for the food. We'll probably just do a buffet style thing. It's the only way to do it. If anything, it's going to be cheaper than any other option that we would have done. Because to be clear, the intent was never to, we cannot afford to do the food for 50, 60 people. It's just not feasible. However, what we can do is make all the coordinations and get everybody a much cheaper rate.
We'll figure it all out.
What we should have done? Eric Spenceley's getting married. I think he's getting married down there in that area. We should have had him do his wedding during that time, and we would have just
open bar
suitors his food from the wedding reception. Like that would,
and we could have done our podcast from the wedding.
That would have been so smart.
A Green Suitors podcast from the wedding.
And his
it would have been really cool is if he would have invited us to the wedding, but since he's a horrible human being and did not invite us.
I heard he cut it off and didn't invite like almost anybody except for his friends, and he didn't have any, so they're just basically going to the wedding by themselves.
Right. Yeah, he's like, well, you know what it really probably was? Is, knowing him, he's not the most likable person in the world. He probably didn't want to be embarrassed by sending the invitation out to a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Because they would all say no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
like, I know I'm giving him a hard time for not sending us an invite, but it's not like we would have gone in anyways, right?
I'm just thinking about using food. I mean, he would have had it catered out, and you do that on a wedding, and we could have just had all the green suitors come as well. And
I think we would have been the draw at the wedding.
Yes.
But we would have had to lie to say he was our friend.
Right.
And that would just hurt my integrity to lie like that.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
But maybe there's another wedding going on down there. We might do some recon. And if we can find a wedding to crash.
Oh.
And we could, there's our food.
Wedding Crashers Con.
Con.
There you go. So that's an option. That's an option. So we'll keep that in mind. But other than that.
Well, Ronnie, the burning question that's on everyone's mind is, do you still have a functioning vehicle?
I do. All of my intuitions were correct. He was extremely responsible and he did wonderful. One of the funniest things that happened was the place they were going to get pictures was closed. It's like a historic house. And when they got to the gate, it said it was open on the website. They had the gate shut. He didn't know what to do. He kind of panicked and he called me. And when he called, I heard her talking right before he said something to me. And she said, "Is the car going to be okay?" And he had just, and I was like, oh no. I found out later on, she got glitter on the floor from her dress. There was gold glitter. And she was like, "Is the car going to be okay?" She was worried about the glitter
that will never come out of your car.
It was like the sequence from the dress and the glitter. No, I haven't even backed out. That's fine. But he was great. And he did the drive from the three different locations, came back about 10:30 to switch out to his car so he could go out to it's like a bonfire and kind of a camp out with his friends out there. And his night just kept getting better. He was woken up, and at night people parked in this swampy area that looked like the flat place, but they were actually parked in water. And he had to use his winch to get 4 people out, completely stuck. One of them was his ex-girlfriend who has a 4Runner, and she was stuck, and he had to pull her out. And I think he got a lot of excitement out of her having to talk to him because they haven't been on speaking terms since they broke up.
For those of you that are listening, in case you don't know, Ronnie let Cam, his son, borrow his car to take his date to prom.
And that'd be the Corvette.
Yes. And we had beers with the boys. We actually had a voting session on it on the night before. And
literally every single person voted yes.
Yeah, I have a picture of it. I looked
including Cam.
I think it was 27 people had their hands up.
Yeah.
And the one who didn't was laughing so hard they didn't even raise their hand, but that means yes. So yeah, Cameron voted yes as well. So it was good. It was good. And I think that comes down to the kid, the levels of responsibility, and
Yep.
and he helps me out so much. And I'm glad to be able to do that for him, give him a little perks of working with me all the time. It's kind of cool. Um, that was fun. So it went okay. Everything went good. And we got through that one.
So besides, let's see, we did beers with the boys. That's something that the three of us did, which was a really good time, by the way. That was a lot of fun.
Mhm. It's great.
You know what I really enjoy now, actually, about beers with the boys. I get it that we don't do it every month now. Like obviously that was not sustainable once we made the higher tiers. But what I really enjoy the months where we do beers with the boys, because I love doing the bourbon with the boys because we see that tight group of individuals all the time, right? And it's fun to catch up. But beers with the boys you only see like once every quarter. So, you get to see new faces, you get to
Yep.
see people like Gary Furness, the governor.
The governor.
Which, by the way, thank you, Gary, for
Yes.
agreeing to give away that gift card. I actually emailed TSO Products today, and they're getting that over to our new winner. That was very, very kind of him. Very surprising. I wouldn't think Gary Furness would do anything kind, but good on you,
And
Gary.
we also get to meet new patrons for the first time, which is really cool. That was
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
the
if you're a patron
conversation-
and if you're a patron and you only have access to beers with the boys and you really enjoyed that, we do that every single month with our apprentice and higher tiers. So think about it. If that's something that interests you, there's some other benefits there as well, but it's a great time. It's always fun.
And there's some people that just pop on for 15 minutes sometimes.
yeah,
And
or
that's
sometimes
cool.
it's after dinner. They have
Yep.
a dinner plans and they jump on. Dirk will jump on in the car driving home from dinner plans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was very quiet on this last
He
one.
was
Yeah.
quiet. He was quiet. He talked more later on, but I think
As soon as I got out of there. Got
yeah,
it.
once
And
you were
me
gone,
too.
you were like,
Yeah.
he's gone.
It's like,
No,
yeah, Sedge and Jason are here. I don't want to say anything.
No, it was a good group. It was a big group too. I think I counted it the most, I think 28 at one point.
Yep.
In there.
That's what
Yeah,
I
it
was
was-
counting.
2 screens worth. I think
Yes.
it spilled onto the second screen.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, it was a good time. Always a good time. Besides that, I mean, does anybody have any updates on anything crazy since the last episode? Ronnie, there's one thing that I would love to know if we can
Yes.
talk about.
Yes, I do want to give a high level update. I gave a really descriptive one in our beers with the boys that
Well, hold on. Let's let Sedge go first then, and then we'll
okay.
yeah, because I know a lot of people have been dying to know that.
Yeah.
Sedge, you got anything exciting new that's happened besides hanging out with me on Saturday?
Oh, by the way, those sausages were great.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
Oh, man.
People
7
tell me
inches.
how great my sausage is.
Not really. Business as usual. I've had a lot going on with the Sedge Tool business, but nothing I really can talk about right now. I have to make some serious business decisions, and but you'll see it. It'll make its way to the screen or to the YouTube channel eventually. So you'll see. I had to make some changes, so we made some changes over the weekend. All good, but you got to remember, and I think Jason, you teach me this all the time. If you are running a YouTube channel, it is a business, and you have to make some business decisions sometimes that may not be
Easy.
So stuff happens.
Yeah.
Yep. So other than that, I have been doing a ton of yard work because I'm mowing 2 properties now. And I think I mentioned that, and this is real personal, but I've mentioned it before. My neighbor, she was in intensive care for 4 weeks in rehab for 2. She had a brain aneurysm. And yesterday I was really blessed to speak with her on the phone for a few minutes because tomorrow afternoon she's coming home.
Oh, good.
It's gonna be a long haul, but it's always refreshing to see the people in her life come together to help. She has a friend who's been up from Florida helping her out on weekends, and Kristen down the street, and Marianne and and I'm mowing the lawn and helping out. But it's just, you know who to lean on. And it's always good when there's something that happens in your life. And I'll make a for instance. Um, the two little boys next door and the little girl down the street, the little girl in the street I had in my video at one time. She was the girl who was sitting on the uplift disc that I was raising.
Yes.
And just I it's such a great community and I live in that I've seen these kids grow up. So let's go back 7, 8 years ago. I have never had any surgery, but I had an umbilical hernia that I'd been nursing for 16 years. And my doctor finally says, you have to get it fixed. And I got the mesh put in. And it was the worst thing because I'm a go person. And I had to not pick up anything more than 12 pounds for about 6 weeks. Well, it was the fall and I had all these leaves to rake because my front yard. Those kids raked my leaves for me.
Oh, that's cool.
And I didn't even say anything. They just did that. And at work, people stepped up to help me. I only missed a week of work. I was back at work, but I had to have, it was kind of like, when you go
How
to
are we
pick
as
up
close as we are? And I had no idea about this.
No,
No. This
When
was
was
this last fall?
no, this was 7 years ago, 8 years ago.
when the
Oh
kids
my
were
God. I
younger.
thought, oh, geez. You had me worried there for a minute. I'm like, I am a terrible friend, or you're really good at hiding things.
No, no. And it's just, you know who to lean on because you don't have to ask. They just do it,
Mm-hmm.
So it's been I think Gwen reached out to me. Hi Gwen, I know you're listening. And she said always she liked it when I said count your blessings because I do it every day. And she sent me a little song about count your blessings. It's and that's what I do because every single day, because you don't know, it could be just like that and your whole life has changed.
Yep.
And it's totally out of her or our control sometimes.
Scary.
You could. So that's what I've been up to. And Chris just got back from the Dominican Republic, so from his honeymoon / wedding, and we'll be hard and back at it next weekend.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Very nice.
Jason, what have you been up to before we hit Ronnie?
Well, besides smashing my fingers in my table saw, not much of anything. I was so bummed out. Like that day was the first time I've actually had a full intentions on going out there and like cutting a bunch of stuff up. And I cut some things up. And for those that I didn't talk about this last week, I talked about on Beers with the Boys, but for those that don't know, I pinched and smashed 2 of my fingers and it was excruciating pain because I thought I ripped my nails off on my slider on the table saw.
That's what I
not
do.
while not while the machine was running. It was not any sort of like dangerous act or anything that happened. What had happened is I moved my table saw, and when I moved my table saw, it was right after I got back from Felder. And one of the things I learned there was like making adjustments. And so I made some adjustments to the table saw, never really got it dialed in, got to doing tons of YouTube video stuff, came back to it, started to make cuts, realized it wasn't dialed in the way it needed to be. So I needed to adjust it. And I saw that when I was making the cuts. Cuts were not coming out perfectly parallel with one another. I figured out what the issue was. No big deal. Fixed it. But before I fixed it, when I was looking, I'm like, why is this not cutting the way that I'm expecting it to? I had my hand on the underside, the backs, the infeed end of the slider with my fingers underneath the slider. And I was slowly pushing it forward while I was watching the distance between the blade and the wood to see if there was a gap. Well, there's a carriage that's underneath that. And if you get too far up, you'll pinch your fingers in there. And that's exactly what I did. And it was hurt so bad that I almost threw up. Like I started sweating profusely immediately. And I've only had that kind of pain one other time in my life. And it was when I broke my foot and my ankle on my motorcycle. And it was not a welcome feeling. So, needless to say, I did not do anything else that day. I'm fine now.
So can I comment on something?
Yeah.
You explained this on Beers of the Boys. So when I was over there Sunday, you showed me. And Ronnie, I
Yeah.
went, oh,
Oh,
okay. But here's the kicker on it. There's a little symbol on there with a hand. Like, don't put your hand here.
oh, how do they know
Yellow.
that?
I know it's there now.
But you know
Yep.
what's sad? That goes back to the seatbelt thing I was talking about. That the seatbelt and the visor or the airbag
Yeah.
thing. No one knows what it says, and it's like this big bright yellow thing you look at forever. But we don't even pay attention to that anymore. The warnings
Mhm.
until you learn the hard way, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I pay attention to that warning now.
boy, Jason, when you showed me what you were talking about on Friday night on Sunday, I was like, oh no, Saturday, the next day, I was like, ow,
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
man.
Not fun. Definitely do not recommend anybody to do that. But other than that, I'm leaving for Germany, and 48 hours from now, I'll be on a plane
wow.
flying to Germany. I'll be there for 3 weeks. So sorry, everybody. I'm going to be absent on a couple of episodes for a couple of weeks, but you should still listen. Um,
Should
so yeah,
still.
no, I've been working really hard to just make sure that my content stuff and all that is out there, ready to go. So that's all wrapped up. So one more day tomorrow, and then we'll be on the way.
Safe
I
travels.
did. Thank you. I did get to mess with the prototype of the thing that said you saw it
Oh,
that
it's
I
great.
that I did with Jonathan Katz Moses. Came up with a couple of ideas. Sent him a message today, and that's actually something that I need to do tomorrow before I leave. Is kind of put some notes in there and say things that we would need to change about it. But it works exactly as it should. That's for sure. Tested that out. So that's very exciting. But enough of that. That's all boring stuff. Now it's time to officially, finally share the saga that seems to have been never ending. And Ronnie is going to tell us some things that he learned.
So on the topic of the customer who did not pay, the money is in the account and it's safe to talk about it. You can't not take it back.
That's
And
right.
I mean, we've talked a lot about it. I did finally get payment for that job. And I want to make sure anyone who's wondering, questioning, all that thing is wondering. Anybody that wants more details, feel free to send me a message about it. I told them on Beers with the Boys, I would really like to do a informational video on YouTube, basically for people that are in the contracting space, small business owners, the things that I learned from this experience. There's things I would have done differently for sure. Um, there's just a lot of lessons learned. I started thinking of all of them and I was like, gosh, it's so many, almost need to document it. I did plan on making that post live again, but I've changed my mind because it's just a
It's
negative
not even
post.
worth it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I wanted to make it live again so I could respond back to the 2,600 comments. 2,600. I looked at the post the other day because you can look at your
Wow.
archived
Good
posts.
Lord.
2,600 comments that were on there of people wondering what happened. I wish there was a way to send a message out to all of them and just kind of say, hey, I got paid because they were really wanting to know. A lot of people really were truly cared. And I think it hit them in the right way where they've been hit that way before too.
Yeah, Ronnie, I'll make a comment. You have to do this video. And I'm saying that because that is such a teachable lesson, especially for those people who are new and what the red flags to look out for,
Yes. Yeah.
because that right there, I just think when I do a video, sometimes I look at it and I go, I don't know if I'm going to get a lot of views on this, but I think that people need to know this because it is a teachable lesson.
Yes.
And somebody reached out to me about a calibration tonight, right before this. He's from Austria. And I said, I wonder how many views I'm going to get on it. And then I went, to hell with that. People need to know this,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And that is the experience you went through So, and that's what those comments are on. I would imagine they've been through that, and they were
Yeah.
like trying to support you through it.
Yep. There were a lot of, and it's interesting. I looked at every single one of the comments, responded to a lot of them, and a lot of the comments, I would say maybe 30% of them, it was good advice. It was good. Looking back now, even more so, it was good. There was a lot of good information that was shared. And I didn't realize it's another one of those things where you don't realize how big of a problem it is in the industry. But there is one thing that I've found out from this experience is that there are a group of people who are business owners and on the wealthy end of the spectrum who have figured out that they can get away with not paying for jobs or getting a discount at the end and knowing that the contractor will agree to it because they have no choice. That's and the more that I've investigated, the more that I see that's very commonplace. And I think I was shielded from this in a way because I work from word of mouth. I don't work from advertisements. I don't work for home shows. I work from people that are connected in some way to my existing customers and the I'm a sub. The contracting companies that I work with, their customers, I'm definitely spoiled in my customers and I have not had to deal with this a lot. But in talking to other companies that do much more volume, they've told me that 20% of their customers um, do this. When it comes to the end of the job, they have trouble getting paid and want a discount, one or both of those things. And that blows my mind. But I said it's an actual facts that's just how it is.
So I wanted
I
to,
can't imagine.
I want to bring something up because you just said that. So I don't think it's just in this community. I think it's just with anything, and that's the society that we have become. And the reason I say that is because Nicole worked for Starbucks for years. And the things that she would tell me that customers would do so often that they like knew who the person was and exactly what BS they were going to pull. And it was all because at the end of the day, Starbucks, in this case, let's say, is the contractor and the customer being the person that's ordering their freaking latte or whatever. It's easier for the contractor, in this case being Starbucks, to just go, yeah, fine, here's a couple of gift cards. We'll see you next time. Like whatever. Like it's not worth the fight and the struggle to go above that. And I think that because companies and organizations have started to cater to the complainer, to the Karens, we'll say out there, for lack of a better term, but everybody will understand what that means. It's caused that with everything. It's like haggling. Oh, I can go to the flea market and haggle. Well, it's like, oh, I'm going to go to Best Buy and I'm going to try to haggle. It's like, no, dummy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, it doesn't work that way.
They try to haggle in a retail store, and
Yeah.
there was somebody I knew. Not going to drop any names, and I heard them
Eric
whining.
Spenceley.
No, they were whining and trying to get a lower price. It was embarrassing for me and Marianne. And then they turn around and get a deal because these people were tired of hearing them. And this is the phrase or the saying I hate because they smiled. They go, squeaky wheel gets more grease.
Yeah.
I hate that. I go, and guess what? We're not friends with them anymore. They were embarrassing. I was always,
I shut down people really fast when I'm giving quotes. I normally don't give them in person. I leave them or email them and I never look at them again unless they call me because I'm not like high pressure sales. But especially towards the beginning, I would go visit them and they'd want to, when it was home show contacts, and they would start trying to go down that road. I remember I'd always say the same thing. I said, I have a list a mile long for my wife. If I want to work for free, I'll go work at my house. And they never had a good response back to that. They saw I'm busy. I only work to make money. I don't work to stay busy. And it shuts down all of their games. And it
you know
worked.
what I used
Right.
to,
And it
you know
was
what I
true.
used to say, Ronnie? I used to say, do I look hungry?
Yeah. I did always say that because it was true. My wife has a huge list of things when I have time or if I ever want to work for free, but I never get to those. So it's like, why would somebody expect for me to just cut my prices? And it's just, and once you have a customer that does that, that's warning sign number one. I'm not saying getting a good price is bad, but I'm just saying if you had to put marks of a customer that's hard to deal with. If they start having you cut your price on the service you offer, there's one tick mark. And then if there's more after that, be worried, be afraid. It's
Okay,
kind of,
well, that's a good thing that you brought up. So now that you went through this and you're talking about tick marks and a certain number of indicators, is that something that you think you'll do moving forward?
well,
Almost like a pre-qualifier?
I think I've always done that. And I think everybody does. As you get burned in different ways, you have in your head, oh, I'm never going to do that again. Oh, I'm never going to do that again. Like for example, say you provided your drawings and somebody took your drawings and had somebody else build from those. You go, oh, never going to give them good drawings again because that was work. That was time. The first year that I was in business, I created a entire basement floor plan for someone that I knew that was a friend, quoted it out, which was way too low.
Was a friend.
Well, she still is, but it's funny part is I quoted this project out half of what I would now. Half. Like she would have got an amazing deal, but I had just left my corporate job and I wanted to be busy. It was even in our neighborhood, and I thought this would be perfect. Priced it out way too low. She ended up taking my drawing, my plan, all the consultation time that I had with her. I had drawn it in SketchUp and like figured it out where her duct work and how we would tie in the duct work to some walls and some beams that where you wouldn't be able to tell. It was like really put a lot of thought into it. I'd say 8 hours. And she was like, I'm sorry, but I found somebody that quoted it out cheaper and we're going to go with them. And then she had a Christmas party and we went to it and it was my design, that was early on. So that's an example of things that happen to you. I know now, don't provide a drawing to someone. I'll do it in SketchUp sometimes and I'll switch it over to a rough sketch. There's like I almost call like a filter that you can say rough sketch. You give it to someone, it's an idea of it, but they don't hold you to anything. It wouldn't help another person who was building it. So things like that. This guy, I think I've mentioned, but there was 2 real warning signs that after I actually never met him, but I was talking to him through the contracting company. And one of the things that was so strange, they were like, he has a company and he has trucking facilities and he wants to know if he can cut the shipping cost per screen by picking it up himself in the trucking. And I was like, I've never had anybody ask that before. And he's like, well, can you? Because I told him I would check. And I was like, well, that's not just covering the shipping. It's also covering the unboxing of it, checking in the shipment, getting it all ready for the thing. All that is included in that price. And he's like, well, can you just check? And I was, I started thinking, well, I will check and see. But I couldn't figure out a way to make it cheaper for him. He wanted to get it cheaper. And then the next thing was, even though it wasn't the target date that I told him, he wanted the number of the manufacturer so he could call and speed up the delivery. That was another one. Had not even been on site yet. The other one was 3 days before we were installing. He sent a message and said, you know what? We just had our big whatever event at our house. And that's what I wanted the screens for. I just want to cancel and I want my money back. I'll worry about it later. And his materials were all ordered. And I was like, and I just sent right back and told him, your money, you're not getting your money refunded. We can cancel it, but you're not getting money refunded because we've already purchased the materials. They're custom made and they're supposed to be here any day. And he didn't even respond back to that. So some people were like, well, why did you even show up to install? Well, because that's your profit. They pay half deposit. Your profit is on the second half. If you don't show up, you're not making anything. So I showed up to do the job, but he had 3-4 warning signs, strong warning signs. But here's the big but. My hesitations were like pacified by the contracting company who wanted me to do this to get this problem customer out of the way. They kept telling me, no, he's not that bad. No, he's not that. I said, my spidey senses are going off. They're like, no, he's like that, but he's not that bad. The whole process, I normally would have ran far, far away. And maybe that's how I've managed to go so long in business and not have one of these problems, but I was assured that he was okay. And that's another learning lesson, is that it's almost reminds me of when I used to use a temporary staffing service for technical services. And it's kind of funny because those companies, they'll put somebody like, they'll send Sedge out, and he's got this bill rate and they make like double off from him. They'll pump Sedge up. They'll be like, oh no, Sedge knows everything. He's a master at everything. They're just wanting to get him on site. They don't really even care if he can do the job or not. It's kind of the same thing. They're wanting to get me on site. They're wanting to tell me about this customer, whatever it takes to get me to go work, where they can just check that box off because the guy wants power screens, and they know they want me to do it, so they're going to talk me into it. And I realize what situation they're in. And I thought they were on my side, but in some ways they're actually acting as for their customer that they've been working there for over a year. So they realized they threw me under the bus many, many different times, and they helped me. They worked with me on getting the things that he wanted to have done. It was, I've said before, and I've heard this before, that when you're working with other companies and you have problems, that's when they see what you're made out of. Tom Silva said it once. He said it once on This Old House. He's no, actually, I think it was the landscape guy, Roger. I think it was a Roger guy. He said it's when you have problems that you see what your subs and your other people you work with, how you all can come together and work it out. When things all happy, you don't get to see that, but they got to see what I was made of and how I wanted to make it right. And, I ended up ordering another door where it could swing the other direction, which was totally a wrong decision, by the way, just awful. I would never do that. But just to make him happy, we did some things like that. And that delayed the process also because of 7-week lead time on the door. So that kind of thing just really pushed it out. And we were coming up on the 6-month mark. And that's the limitation in Kentucky for liens. And that was really concerning me. So that's what really started pushing it. The owner of the company contacted him and said, look, we need to wrap this up. So I feel like in some ways that he was stretching that out to the 6-month period. Sometimes the homeowners know more than the people doing the work. They know how to work the system. So that
the scary thing is that when you see stuff like this or you deal with issues like this, I'll tell you right now, you ain't the first person.
Well, yeah.
They learn that from other experiences. Guaranteed.
Oh,
it's just like the person that goes into Starbucks and says their coffee's not right and they get a free coffee. They do that with probably every other company that they go to as well.
Yes. And the worst part is the screen company sent me the message that he sent them. He sent my distributor. He sent the screen manufacturer. He really was trying to go after me. He said things that weren't true. He painted me. He said I was extremely unprofessional and that and they sent me the message and they sent it to me. And the last thing that I saw was that he said that he was not going to be giving me the final payment for the job, which is half. And that's when I sent it over to the company who contracted me. And I said, even though you say he's paying, he's telling other people he's not. This needs to be resolved. And that's when it kind of went up a notch and we were able to get it done, which I'm glad. But I still am bothered by the guy thinking in any way, shape, or form that I do shoddy work or that I was not being professional or any of those things, because I've never shown that side ever to a customer. And it just really bugs me. And the payment thing is a secondary thing. It really bothers me that he didn't like me. It really bothers me a lot. It bothers me that he doesn't realize the level of detail I went through while he was out of town and while I was working on his house. We just had somebody replace our privacy fence on 2 sides on Monday. On Friday. And Kelly's blown away by the muddy footprints around our pool and where they tracked the mulch into our rock because their mud stuck to it. Broke off limbs on our hydrangeas, when they're pulling the old fence out, just all this stuff. And it hit me all over again. I'm like, I am so careful when I'm working at someone's house. I'm almost like leaving zero. What's it called? Like when the campers, they say leave zero trace. That's the way I work. Like I leave zero trace. And I've always worked that way because that's the way I want people to work at my house. And I mean, they just like did a lot of things. I'm glad it's the beginning of the season because we can kind of resolve some of it. But even showing up when it rained all morning, our grass, when you walk in grass back and forth, like 600 trips, it becomes mud, like comes out of the grass. And we had muddy grass going all around. They shouldn't have even came that day, but little things like that. This guy just finished a $500,000 job in his backyard. The way that I took care of and just kept it perfect. I blow it off at the end of every day. I use my blower, and that kind of thing. And I'm just like, he didn't appreciate that. And that just really bugs me. But some people, like you all said, that's the way they work. I'm not the first person he did that with. I talked to the local paint store. They were very familiar with this guy. They knew him by name. They even said, "Hey, guess who he had?" Said his name. And he was like, "Oh, yeah, we know about him." So he has a reputation. He's even he kicked someone off a job site before, the painters, because they did not use the kind of roller cover that he specified in the contract. And he kicked them off the job. He wanted mohair and they kicked him off. So that's a story I found out in the middle of this. So that's made me feel better. Like you all said, it's not specifically me. I was the unlucky person that worked on his house. But never again, like on that kind of thing. Trust your spidey senses. That's what I've seen. All the warning bells were going off and I did it anyway. That's what it comes down to. But I'm just glad to finally have closure. That was a 6-month wait, which is ridiculous that this guy's a business owner and he did that to me. Because business owners know you rely on every single payment. You put the money out, you get paid. Put the money out, you get paid. That was all of my profit he held for 6 months, which was just ridiculous. But it all came out in the end. But I have the only thing you can do sometimes is just make it a learning experience. And that's just a learning experience. Cameron got to see it firsthand, the whole thing. He's going to be going on into the business. He's already learned that at 17, which is awesome. I had to learn it at almost 50. So that's great. Those are learning experiences. So that's good. Just don't let it happen again. Right.
Well, I mean, it speaks volumes about you and your business for the fact that you've been doing it for years and this is the first time you've ever had something like this happen before.
And I've never had to do a lien, which I did not want to have to do that.
I'll tell you what, Ronnie, you are more than welcome to come do your shoddy work at my house anytime you want.
That's right. You know what? You have not updated. You did on the
Oh boy.
But you have not updated the results of your quote that has happened. That's the next thing we need to talk about.
This is true because go ahead, Sedge.
Let's refresh everybody. I came in, I said, Ronnie, what did you say?
I believe I said high 60, 70 is what I said.
You said you wouldn't be surprised if it was around 30. However, if it was all the way up to 60 to 70, you also wouldn't be shocked.
Because I was thinking that range. Yeah, it was a big
range. What
did
I say? 30, 35?
Yeah, 25 to 35, I think is what you said.
Yeah, I think that's what I said. So explain to everybody again what was included and what it was.
So I got an estimate to have a roof, basically a covered patio portion on a space that is roughly 360 square feet. It's about 18 feet in depth and it's about 22 feet wide. No walls. I didn't want any support beams from the house all the way out to the end, except for the support posts on the end. So they were like, yeah, we'll use LVLs, all that stuff. It'll be wide open, 0 walls, wide open. It is literally a roof, some roofing materials, 3 cedar beams, and a fan and 4 can lights. And they were going to run some electrical for the TV that I was going to put out there. I'm thinking, between $20,000 and $30,000. Like 30 would be expensive for this. Well, I got 2 estimates back, and this was a very weird experience as well. And this is actually probably going to be beneficial for some people listening. I've had a lot of estimates. I'm very religious when it comes to getting estimates done. And typically I will get anywhere from 3 to 6 estimates on every single thing that I bid, regardless of what it is. Windows doesn't, especially big ticket items. Well, I was so impressed with the company that had done my landscaping that this was their recommendation. And I took a look at the website. Amazing. I was like, well, I'm going to start with these guys. He said when he was here, I was like, well, obviously I probably want to do the more cost-effective way, but I'm okay if it's just a slanted, like a sloped roof. It doesn't need to be a pitched roof, like like, I'm okay if it just comes off. Like, that's fine. I know that'll be cheaper. He's like, well, I'll give you an estimate for both. Well, for the sloped roof, the estimate was $58,000.
Unbelievable.
And for the pitched roof, it was $69,000.
Crazy.
And so here's what's crazy about it to me is that when I had the estimate done, he's like, you'll hear something in about a week. I'll have our engineers draw this up. You'll hear something. I get a message and it says, hey, your estimate's done. Would love to come talk to you about it. We have these days available next week. So that right there was my first red flag. Speaking of red flags, I'm like, okay, so not only did they not send me the estimate for me to review, they're saying that they want to come talk about it in person. So now they're going to have to try to sell it. So we had the date planned, and the original guy from the guy that I dealt with for all the landscaping stuff, he sends me a text message. He's like, hey man, I hate to do this. I'm really sorry. I know we're supposed to be coming out there today. Maybe it was the day before or something, but he's like, is there any way that we can reschedule? There's some things that I needed to have prepped for our meeting prior to me coming out there. And he said, full transparency, I just have not had the time to get it done. I'm swamped in estimates. Can we reschedule to next week? I'm like, well, I'm a little bummed out because I've been looking forward to this all week. And they also wanted the guy that did the estimate to be available, but he couldn't be there because he was at a funeral on the day that we were supposed to be doing the thing, which I knew that in advance. So I said, well, the guy's name is Justin. I said, Justin, can we just save ourselves the trouble? Like, can you just send me the estimate? Because I can tell you right now if this is even a possibility or if it's not even close to the price that I have budgeted for this. And his response was, I would have loved to have sent you the estimate right off the bat. However, this company and the guy that came out and did the estimate, this is how they do things. And they prefer to come out and talk over the entire project in person. And I'm like, okay, I can respect that. It's a solid company, very good reputation. There's probably a reason why they want to do that. So he writes me and he says 58 for the sloped roof, 69 for the pitched. What's the verdict? That's all he wrote. And I said, well, I can make this very easy for you because that is double what I was expecting the price to be. So there's no need for you guys to come out. I will have other estimates done. But I mean, that was the fact that both of you and myself, based on the research that I had done, people that I had talked to, your guys' opinions based on being in the industry currently or in the industry previously, or just being adults and dealing with estimates, this post-COVID mentality. And I noticed it during COVID, like they could put it whatever price they wanted. Everybody wanted stuff done. They were all at home. They wanted all this cool stuff done. And prices just skyrocketed. And now to see that in person and experience that, like how, because I guarantee you I'll get other estimates and these estimates will come. I guarantee you I'll get people that'll do it for half that price. Guaranteed. And probably do a phenomenal job.
It was funny, Jason, because Marianne, when we were over on Saturday, she goes, what's he talking about? And I go, look over there, like 5 yards over. And it was basically, she goes, there's no walls on that. I go, yeah. And she goes, how much did they want for that?
Yeah.
She was freaking out. She couldn't believe it. She goes, that's nothing. And then I think it's kind of like catty corner from your house. They have another one, but it has like a wall or two on it. And she goes, she said, you can do that. I go, oh yeah, I know I can, but I'm not. It's crazy.
Yeah.
What they were asking for that.
Yeah. I feel like, especially after COVID, you take your guess times 2, and that's what it is. And I feel like some of it is that companies tried that out and it worked and they got away with it. And they're like, why weren't we charging this much before? And they're just still charging that amount and they've never taken it back down. You also the lumber price like spikes, which have came back.
Same. Yeah, exactly. So that's like the best thing to compare it to, because everybody freaked out when the lumber prices went up, and granted, they went up a lot. But will they ever be as cheap as they were? Never, never.
No.
The watch market's the same way. I know that
Mhm.
I'm the only one that's like super into watches, but like during COVID, guess what happened? Just like everything else, stuff
Supply demand.
skyrocketed.
Supply demand.
Double, triple, quadruple in value. Guess
Mhm.
what? They've come down. But here's the other guess what? They will never come back down to what they were prior to COVID,
Mhm.
ever,
They never
ever.
will.
Because every company realized I can make more money from this.
Everything reset to a new level of normal, and the cost just went up on everything.
Yeah.
It's just what happened. But yeah, that's
Ronnie, I should have you bid it out. You can come up here and do it. I'll pay you good money.
I tell you, you know,
You want to make 30
closer,
grand?
if I
Come do
was
it.
closer to you, I think you'd be probably 30% of my customer base. I would
Yeah.
be like, yeah, I can do it. Let's do
Ronnie,
it.
you can stay at my house. I'll even help you do the damn thing. And I'll still pay you full
It's,
asking price.
I'll
it's
come
And we don't
over
even
and
need to do
watch.
screens.
it'd be so tempting, but you know, Jason and I talked, and I told him, I was like, you know, I know you don't want to, but if you contracted this out yourself, you could save even more. You could, if he went to a construction site close by where guys were framing up a house and could
Yep.
get a group of 2 or 3 guys to come over, say, you can use trusses, just come over and just frame it up. Let them frame it up and leave, and then get a roofer to do the top part, get the vinyl dude to come over and do that kind of thing. And it, he would save a ton of money. And I know that he wants to, um, you know, be hands off. And I understand that too. You just want it to happen and walk away. But to do that, if he acted as the contractor, there would be significant savings
Oh yeah.
you could do that, get that done for. But
See, that's the hard part for me is that by doing that, you're inevitably drawing out the length of time to complete that project for sure. Right.
yeah,
Because then you're relying on all of these different groups of people, and one can't do the job until the other people are done. And that most of them are probably going to be doing it on the side. So it's like,
Yep.
and no, don't get me wrong, I'm not in like a rush for it, but you also run the risk of like getting halfway through and the next step that needs to happen, they just are total
yeah,
turds and they drop the ball, or they see what the previous person had done and then they don't want to do something.
I
So that's just why I like
understand. No,
I
you're
have tons of respect for general
no,
contractors, but
I'm
that's
not
just
saying that
something
you're
that, man.
wrong. I mean, and general contractors also have contacts that they jump whenever they say jump, they say how high. And you
Right.
don't have that power when you're a general homeowner. They're going to put you at the last of the list for sure. They're
Mhm.
going to jump after their home builders and their high-end contracting companies like that use me. I'm going to definitely, you know, use my resources there first before I do a homeowner. You know, you're at the bottom of the totem pole when they see you as a
Unless
homeowner.
it's me,
That's
right?
for sure. What's that?
Unless it's me
Unless it's
That's
you.
it.
Unless
building
you
a
need to open
patio.
the garage door and be like, you want to see my slider?
Yeah.
You're like,
Ronnie, I'm telling you, this is a great idea. You just come up, stay here for a couple of days. We can get all the
couple of
materials.
days.
We knock this thing out,
We're gonna
right?
do a 30-foot patio in 2 days. You know,
Yeah.
I will say
I'll pay for your meals. You can stay
I
here at the
could,
house.
the framing part of that, I would say max 2 to 3 days, max to do if you had trusses and you were setting them in place, that's max 2 to 3. Cause my shop was built exactly the way you want to do your patio. I actually had a drop down. My original shop had a 2.5, 3 foot foundation to the left of it. And I did the trusses off the side of the building, which was 12 feet tall. So I was able to come under the underhang and still get 10-foot ceilings in this addition part. But I just did trusses that were 32 feet long off from the building, same as your house, and framed it out. And Cameron was like 6. That was my helper. He was he was like 7 years old, and he ran the tractor. And I actually took the tractor bucket and I made an attachment for it that was like a boom arm. And Cameron ran the boom arm and set the trusses up in the air, and I would tie them in place. And they were 32-foot long trusses. And he was doing that. So he was like he may have been 11 actually. Yeah. But he was
Well,
doing that.
good. Bring Cam as well. Then we'll have three
He
people.
was,
And then Sedge, he can sit there in the shade and hand
it's
us
just like,
beer
Yeah.
when we want it.
it's
Yeah.
a shame. He
I'll
can't
come and
lift
watch.
12 pounds. He's got that belly button thing.
I'll
I'll
come and
gr-
watch.
I'll make some German sausages while you're here, Ronnie.
Nice.
I'm not asking for free. I'll pay you,
I,
damn it.
I know you are. I know you
But do you
are.
offer financing options?
You know, it's interesting you say that. I came really close to doing that once, but do you know the reason why I decided not to?
Why?
Because that would be two things. One, it would create more business for me because people that were not my customers suddenly would be able to be my customers.
Yeah.
And I thought, do I want to open up a whole nother customer base when I can barely handle the customer base I have now? So I decided against it and actually did a lot of legwork to get approved and get all that. I was talking to a company that all you do is you call the number and you hand the phone to the homeowner,
Yeah.
take care of everything right there.
Mhm.
But I started thinking, do I really want to go there? Now, as I did more volume and like with Cameron being involved in the business and I want to do more volume, I would probably consider that more. But when it's just me, I have to be careful about that because you don't want to be too busy. You have to really make sure you don't take on too much. It's a it's an important thing. It's like planning. It was like projecting like business.
Well, I mean,
Projects.
when there's only two of you, yeah, makes total
Got to be
sense.
careful about that. And there's people that be like, well, that's why you need to scale. And that's why you need to get employees. And that's why you need to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't
Nope.
want to.
Right.
I don't want to be a manager. I don't want to deal with people. I don't want to deal with them calling in sick. I don't want to deal with any of that stuff. There's people that do, and that's great. But I got out of corporate world because I didn't want to be a boss anymore. That's why
I totally agree.
I want to do the work. That's the other thing. There's books that'll say, don't do the work. Don't do the work. But I want to do the work. That's why I got out of the corporate world.
Well, I mean, people are looking at it from the lens of, you're doing so well for yourself. You could double and triple your episode or your amount of money that you make, your revenue, by hiring more people. It's like not everybody wants to do that. Like,
You know what? It's a
are
sliding.
you happy with what you're doing now? I mean, you live pretty comfortably, I'm
Yeah.
sure,
Oh,
and your
yeah.
business
And I
generates
also
plenty
have
of revenue.
freedom. I can shut down the business for 3 or 4 days if I want to, and I can go on a trip and it's easy. But if I had guys working for me, they'd be like, what are we doing tomorrow? What are we doing?
Right.
Yes.
And if it's guys that you trust being on a site by themselves and doing things, you are paying dearly for those people, like
Yep.
dearly. And that's not in that, which increases your overhead, which means you have to sell more, which means, and it just trickles down. And I have seen that. And I like the business model I'm in where my overhead is extremely low. Instead of having employees, I buy fun tool toys. I buy fun
Right.
tools. I buy a CNC just because even if I use it 6 times a year, I don't care. It's cheaper than an employee. I buy, I buy
Right.
whatever I want tool wise. Instead of buying an employee, I buy tools and it's fun. It's
It
fun.
brings on a whole nother level of stress. Every time I'm with Mike Coffee, right? All these events that we go to. I mean, he's somebody you want to talk about that's constantly trying to scale, but he thrives in that environment. That's what he wants.
And that's great.
But
I don't.
what's very fascinating about it is he's got great guys working for him, and he'll admit it. And I mean, you can tell just by the amount of sheer volume that they're turning out on stuff. He clearly has really good people, and he wants to take care of them. However, I can always tell every time I'm with Mike, every single time, that when he is away, he's not really away.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's constantly worrying about what's going on back there, even though he has great guys, but he is still the boss and he still has to
Yep.
answer questions. So there's never a real vacation. There's never really time off, right? Because now you're responsible for other people.
Yes. And it's shocking. I think I was shocked at the cost of an employee. I was shocked. I was
Mhm.
shocked to find out that all those deductions you see on your paycheck, the employer has to pay those as well. Again. So like people that are going, oh, look how much taxes came out of my check. Your employer has to pay those exact same taxes on top of the deductions that come out of an employee. Employees are so expensive.
Yes.
You
And are
have
they
to,
worth the headache? And are they worth scaling? And you
it's
lose freedom.
and the people who are worth investing in are probably more than likely going to start their own business. That's the kicker.
You're
That's
you're
the
training you're training your competition.
It's so true. It's so
Ooh,
true.
good
It's
analogy there.
it is. You are training your potential. And yesterday I actually saw something. I don't know the facts behind it, but I saw that the government was trying to eliminate non-compete agreements from existing. And I instantly thought about what we were talking about right now. That's the only thing that saves my brother-in-law, who's a plumber, is non-compete agreements that people can't just be trained and leave. They have to wait a certain amount of time. But if they eliminate non-competes, that is going to be a mess in the industries wide, like any kind of industry where people are trained,
Yeah.
because other employers are going to become a training ground for someone to run and become the competition.
Especially if you're people come in and you're selling a business. This and are we talking about that too? Where I
Yes.
sell a bit like my buddy Eddie sells his business, but he had to sign a non-compete, so he couldn't go and start his lumber company across the street. He had to
Yeah.
wait 5 years. Are they
And like,
talking about that? Because
yeah,
that'll
like that.
ruin selling small business.
Well, that's the way I took it in the headline that I saw. And also, like, another example would be like a garage floor epoxy company. Like say you're doing high volume. And I know someone who has that business. He's looking for two really good guys that can run with it. He gets them trained. He starts selling. He becomes a sales guy. He's got these two guys that are doing garage floor epoxy using his materials, like using everything, and they learn how to do it. And they think, you know what? Why do we need him? We can go start our own company. We know how
Yeah.
to do this now. And that's the thing that is just a danger, that you
Yes.
basically, created competition. And then like gas stations, you start bidding against each other and you run the price down lower and lower, and then no one's making money. That's
You
the
know, for to it, I don't want to go too deep into this rabbit hole just because I know we're running a little short on time. But since you just brought that up, this goes with the conversation on trades, right? Where like trades are dying. Well, why are trades dying? Well, because people aren't going in and people aren't getting taught. Well, isn't that kind of counterintuitive to the argument that we're having about you always run the risk of training your competition? Like, don't we want to be doing that? So there is that next. Well, I get it that it could potentially hurt your business, especially if there are people that live in your area. But at the end of the day, like, don't we want to train people to be good and pass on that knowledge? I
I
just wanted to bring that up because I
know
thought
it's a
that was
good point.
fascinating about like, I never thought about it like that. When you're training somebody, they could absolutely go out and do it on their own. And that garage floor epoxy is a perfect example. But at the same time, maybe you don't want to do garage floor epoxy for the rest of your life, right? And you're still going to have your clients because you've established the thing. But don't we want other people to know how to do the same things that we do so it continues on in the
I,
future? You know what I mean?
I think what has changed with that is that most people don't see a job being something you have for like an entire career anymore.
Mhm.
It's a known, you're jumping around is normal now, and it's okay and it's encouraged. So it's hard to get a lifelong employee. I think it's hard to get
Yeah.
somebody that stays with you for 10, 15, 20 years. And you're investing so much money into an employee. When they leave you, it's devastating when you're a small business. It's a huge loss. And
Mhm.
it I've talked to Cameron a lot about it, with being so young and being a business owner. When he gets out of school, he's going to have time to invest in the right people and identify the right person to invest in, and basically get someone who's just like a strong person that can do everything he can do. That's going to be critical for him when he gets
It's going to be
out.
hard to find.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to find, but that's going
It's
to be
not common.
critical for him. That's something that I messed up on in my business when I hired helpers. I didn't hire people that were potential people that could do what I do. I hired helpers because they were cheaper, but I didn't need helpers. I needed someone that could basically do everything that I could do. And that's very expensive, but you have to be willing to invest in that type of a person to be able to start building the scale that you're talking about. Like with Mike Coffee, you have to have expensive people. And those people are, in the last 4 or 5 years, have gotten more expensive than they even were before.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy. I mean, it really is. So you just have to make a decision on which way you want to go with that. But yes, you're right. You do have to share secrets to have somebody, and you have to get
Yes.
up to speed. You do, but it's a fine line on, are they going to stay with you or not?
Yeah. Well,
Well,
that's probably as good a time as any to transition this one. What do you guys say?
sounds good.
Why does it say that I was signed out of Zoom?
Are you?
That's weird. Hopefully that doesn't affect anything. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to episode 135 of the greatest podcast ever created by man, not the garbage that Eric Spenceley and the crew of Off the Cut are spewing on a weekly basis. But we're not here to discourage them or talk bad about them, because their podcast is available on all streaming platforms, Apple, Spotify included. But anyways,
they're waiting for the first play. Go out and listen to it.
Yeah, well,
have they recorded an episode, or are they still talking about it?
They're doing some trial runs, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode. I know it's a little shorter than usual, but, you know, I got to run.
Okay. I think this is where we say bye-bye.
See you guys next time.
Bye-bye. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.